We just finished up night one of the Act Like Men conference, and I'm here with two of our speakers, Pastor Brian Tome, Pastor Joby Martin. Appreciate you guys joining us. Killer word, by the way, tonight, bro.
Thank you, sir.
Crushed it.
Thank you.
I got to say, I love the thing that you said about wives. I've never heard this. If she's talking in feelings, talking feelings.
Yeah, I learned that in the hard way.
She said, talking in facts, talking facts. I'm going to apply that immediately, man. But
yeah, that was really strong.
Super good, man. Super good. Well, listen, we're here doing a conference all about biblical manhood. I know this is a topic you guys are deeply passionate about. I mean, you've done camps, you've done conferences. Both of you have written books. And so I want to start here. How are you defining biblical manhood for the men in your churches?
The kind of the roles that I talk about are prophet, priest, servant, king, provider, protector. That, you know, 3 Old Testament offices. Yeah. And the description in Ephesians of love for your wife is provide and protect. So that's where I get that.
Yeah. Brian?
Mine isn't a biblical thing. It's more of a just what I observe all men who I aspire to be like to have. They're in the Bible and history. It's you're either boy or man. There's 15-year-old men and there's 45-year-old boys. Yeah. And the marks of them are always the same. Every man has a vision, and boys want to live day to day. Men are team players. Boys want to be MVP. They can't make commitments, can't get married, can't keep a job. Well, that's number 3. Yeah. Men are workers, just like Joby talked about tonight. Brilliant, you know, Adam and Eve. How many people think that like work was a curse?
Right. Yeah.
No, fruitless labor is a curse.
Yeah.
Men understand that. Men don't want to freaking retire.
Right.
They want to keep adding value somehow. Yeah. Where boys want to just play every day, and men have a minority position, and boys need to be in the majority. So just get used to it. Whoever I vote for, they're going to lose.
Yeah.
You start talking about sexual ethics. I know I'm the weird guy. Right. I know I am. You start talking about how you should manage your money, and you forget. I know that. I know that guys have to be that way. We have to be used to being in the minority. Boys can't be in the minority. So those 5 marks.
Well, you talked about boyhood and manhood tonight.
Well, for all of human history up until about 80, 85 years ago, you were either a boy or you were a man. And typically you either went to war, you started a career, or you got an education. And what came with it primarily was responsibility.
Right.
I mean, a one-word definition of manhood is responsibility.
Yeah.
That Adam has given responsibility. This is why when sin goes down, God goes to Adam, not Eve, not what'd you do. But, hey, dude, you're in charge.
Right.
And so that's fundamentally it. The men take responsibility. Yeah. And boys shirk responsibility.
Right.
Right.
Well, the statement that I wrote down that you said, boys consume, men contribute.
Yeah.
Boys consume, men make sacrifices. Right. So let me ask you this, man. Like in our culture today, I mean, there's a lot of confusion around this whole thing. A lot of people, you know, they blame culture. Other people I've heard blame the church. The church just hasn't been clear enough on this. How do you feel like we've gotten so far off in this conversation in our culture today?
Well, this will get me in trouble, but whatever. I get it, man. For the last 50 years or so, there's a lot of men that would go to a church, and most churches ask men to be women. Like, come in here, put on a dress, sing some pretty love songs to Jesus, sit in circles talking about your feelings. And I don't think I'm going to do that, you know?
Yeah.
And the way I describe it, think about this for a second. If I go home and my wife has on one of my flannels, she looks great. If I have one of my flannels, it looks fine. If she has on a blouse, she looks great. If I wear her blouse, something's wrong. The church has been a blouse for the last bunch of years. And so women fit and men didn't. And I do think there has been a resurgence for sure in the last few decades.
100%.
Calling men to be men.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, kind of in pockets of churches.
How did that happen? The feminization of the church. You think it's just a leadership issue?
Did you go to seminary?
I did.
Did you look around your class?
Did what you said?
Did you look around who the boys that go to seminary?
Well, there was a study. I remember it was decades ago that there was a definitive study that was done that at that point, pastors had less testosterone than did women. Excuse me. Pastors had...
He's going to get it right. He's going to get it right. Yeah.
No, pastors had less testosterone than other men in other professions their age and their...
Okay, gotcha.
Their I think a bunch of things happen in church. I mean, people ask me, what's Crossroads do in terms of... What's our church in terms of men's ministry? Not a lot.
Yeah.
Not a lot. Our main thing is it should be an easy handhold for when an average guy comes into the church.
Yeah.
And the problem is we've had the feminization of the church. When I talk about feminization, I'm not talking about women in leadership. I'm an oddball in the man space. I'm pretty much egalitarian, pretty much. I believe in women in leadership. Joey's going to squash my head over here. I do. No problem. But I do. But I don't believe that a church should be trending to what women want. I don't believe the church should be speaking the language of women over and above the language to men. I don't believe the church should be making things emotional and feely and warm and sentimental. Yeah. I believe that we have to speak with a masculine tongue, and very few churches can speak with a masculine tongue. And if you do, you'll be accused of like ignoring the women. You'll be accused of being whatever. It's just not good.
Yeah.
And you wedge in the midst of this, churches losing the ability to have a masculine tongue. And then we're in borderland here in our culture.
Oh, for sure.
Well, listen, man, I know Jesus is the head of the church, but from the empty tomb until today, the backbone has been women.
Yeah.
I mean, in any church, is anybody like, what the problem here is?
Globally.
We can't get enough women at prayer meetings. Can't get enough women to, I mean, dude, they are the backbone.
Right.
And so,
right.
And we're fully complementarian. Like,
sure.
You are too.
Like Jesus and Paul. Yeah. We're more like Paul and Jesus. But that's fine. But anyway, even at like our church this year, we've aimed our entire year. This is the year that we're going to call men to stand firm and act like men. Right. All the sermon series have been aimed that way. Now, we went verse by verse through 1 Timothy and Titus. And so obviously men, women, and children can learn a lot because it's the Bible. But I've never had a woman at our church complain and be like, what about us? Mm-hmm. They're all going, oh, thank God, help me.
That's right.
I've got dads, a husband, sons. Mm-hmm. I've got men in my life that need this.
Yep.
Yeah.
Bro, that's been our experience. We birthed this new ministry in our church for men a couple years ago, just prioritizing men's discipleship, launched this conference. And when we started talking about this publicly, I got more thank yous from women in the church than I did from men. And the amount of stories that we hear from wives that are like, I don't know what y'all are doing on Tuesday nights with my husband, but whatever you're doing, please keep doing it because it's working.
That's the real measure. That's the real measure. I mean, one of my elders one time said, if you want to find a mentor, find somebody with a worn out Bible and a smiling wife. You know what I mean? So that really is. Because one of the things I warned them tonight, bro, if you go home all cowboyed up, she remembers the last time you went to a conference and did that, but it didn't last.
Yeah.
And that will never sustain you.
Yeah. That's really good, man.
Men it's not fair, I don't think, just to place the blame on the churches and do X, Y, Z. We're at a unique fulcrum point in our culture that's never been this way before in the history of man and all of anthropological history in every corner of the globe. There's never been the dynamics that are happening right now with men, and they feel awkward. Like women are better educated than men right now. 70% of all graduate students are women. We know very clearly in the history of our country, those who are best educated are best paid. So we're now having guys who are making less money than their wife. It's not a bad thing. I wish my wife made more money than me. I'd buy more guns and motorcycles. But, you start to feel odd because your dad and your grandfather were never in that situation. We have more guys who are stay-at-home parents for perhaps some good reasons. It's just odd.
Yeah.
It's a very, very strange transitionary time. And guys are not equipped to handle it. We're not equipped to handle it. We're now dealing with things that no one's ever had to deal with before. Even Joey made reference to it tonight. Just the fact that we'd have to debate and talk about biology, whether or not that indicates whether or not you're a man or not.
Right.
Like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
There's so many firsts and so much pressure on the average guy that unless he's in a healthy group, it's going to be really hard for him to come through it. And I'm talking about average guy in America.
Yeah.
And none of them are in healthy groups. The loneliness epidemic is insane.
Yeah.
The way they connect with one another is games. Games just are not a way. I'm fine with games. It's just you don't build healthy, quid pro quo, deep, emotionally connected relationships that way.
Well, dude, talk about that. Like as you guys are working with men in Jacksonville, Cincinnati, and beyond, where do you see guys struggling most today? And how are you being intentional, and how can other churches be intentional about stepping into those spaces? And I even love to, and I'll use your language tonight, not even just struggling, but sinning.
Yeah. That was very fresh.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, if you in that passage we're looking at in Corinthians, to stand firm and act like men, the first thing it says is be watchful. Mm-hmm. And Peter says, watch out. He's talking to men. That section is talking to elders, right? And so he says, watch out, because the enemy prowls around like a roaring lion seeking someone to devour. And isolation is one of the primary tactics of the enemy to take men out. Yeah. So the dude that's got buddies but doesn't have a band of brothers, he's dead, man.
Right.
He's dead. You got to have, in Mark chapter 2, there was a paralyzed man on the mat. He had 4 men pick up the corner of his life and tote him to Jesus. Yeah. If you don't have 4 men that you can write down their names right now and tote you to Jesus when you find yourself on the mat, because it's coming financially, relationally, physically, it's coming, then you're not doing it right. You're not doing the church Christian thing right. Mm-hmm. And you need to deputize these men. You need to tell them, you two are mat toters for me. Yeah. So if I'm heading in a direction that's killing me or my marriage or my kids, I need you to pick up a corner of the mat and tote me to Jesus.
So good, man.
That's a big one. Isolation's a big one.
The most important spiritual discipline for any man is the wisdom to make the right friendships. Yeah. It's more important. I know someone's going to try to defrock me. I'd take a guy who knows how to make and have the right friendships over I'd take a guy who can read the Bible, or I'd take a guy who has a prayer life. Because if he's got the right guys in his life, the other things are going to follow. He needs that connective tissue. Yeah. And we've lost the ability to make friends. Yeah. Like Joby and I, we see each other fairly infrequently, but we have enough relational skill. We're friends. We actually know how to encourage one another and laugh a little bit. And you and I gave you one of the greatest lines ever about your hat earlier on. That's really rare for guys to be able to know how to interact with other guys.
That's right. No, bro, I was in Chicago a few weeks ago hanging with some pastors, and one of the guys that was leading the group, he said, who's the one guy in your life that if crap hit the fan right now, you'd pick up the phone and call? And then he said, who's the guy in your life that if something incredible happened, you would pick up the phone and call? Yeah. And he said, you need an answer to both questions. Like, who's your guy that's like, bro, my life is falling apart? And who's your guy I need somebody to celebrate with?
Well, pastors are the worst, bro.
They are the worst.
Like I tell guys all the time, I mean, at this point, when somebody falls publicly, 20 years ago, it might as well have been Chewbacca or somebody. I didn't know those people, Right. Yeah. Now, bro, we've all sat in.
All your friends. That's right.
Yeah. And I see a couple things. Well, number one, they don't have friends, man. Right. They don't have friends. If you have not, pastor, if you have not been the butt of a joke lately, then you ain't got friends. Yeah. Or if people don't just call you your first name, they just call you pastor, that's weird.
Right. It is weird.
They don't have elders in their life that can say no to them.
Yep. Right.
Yep.
And they don't have a life-giving hobby.
Yeah.
Yes.
If I ask guys, I ask every pastor I hang out with, I go, what do you do for fun? And if you say family and church, you're screwed, bro. That is
even weightlifting.
Well, I tell people,
it's good.
But to your point, I tell people all the time that's not a hobby for me. That's a necessity.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
You said this to me over lunch a couple years ago. Hey, bro, you're married, you got kids, you're pastoring a church, you got time for one hobby.
Choose wisely.
My one hobby, I fish, man. That's all I do.
Praise God.
I got guys in my life.
Steal your mind away.
That's all it is, bro. Turn my brain off, whatever. I have guys in my life that are trying to get me to play golf right now, and I keep saying I got time for a second. I will be on the lake or on the river fishing. That's where you'll find me.
That's part of the problem with the loneliness epidemic.
Yeah.
We make friends as men when we're doing something with somebody else. Mm-hmm. Well, if guys don't have hobbies, which very few do, if your hobby is something you're doing on your own anyway, working out or something like that, that's all you have. You're not having that connective tissue.
Yeah.
We bond over those things. We make friends shoulder to shoulder. Women make friends face to face. They just go to lunch with anybody and, it's great. No, we can do something together.
That's right.
And then maybe the friendship comes out.
Yeah, friendship comes through activity.
Yep.
It's good. You mentioned family. I want to talk about that for a moment because, family can't be a hobby, but it's a responsibility that we carry.
Whether it's fun or not, it's yours.
You have to do it. So what does manhood look like practically? In fatherhood, in marriage? How does it look for you? How do you disciple men in that?
Prophet, priest, king.
Yep.
So a prophet tells the truth. So you need to be bathing your family in truth. Not just, that doesn't mean you're leading Bible studies all the time. I tried that really hard and failed most of the time. But you are the truth keeper in your house. Yeah. All right. And a priest are people that connect people with God. That's their job. Your job might not be to disciple your wife, but to make sure she is in discipleship kind of relationships. Yeah. And king is that you order the place so that everybody flourishes. And then you provide and protect.
Yeah.
Like one of the things men get beat up on all the time. I don't know who came up with the phrase that men are the spiritual leader. That's bullcrap. Yeah. That is not in the Bible. They're the head.
Yeah.
They're in charge of everything. The spiritual life of your family is one of many things that you are responsible for. So then what happens is you got a brother that's killing it. He's providing and he's protecting so mama can stay home. And she's in 6 women's Bible studies all over town. And she knows the Bible 10 times better than he does. He's doing a wonderful job loving his family. Quit beating that guy up, okay? Because he doesn't know the big theological terms you do in the prayer around the table. Now, he can't shirk his responsibility. He needs to be knowing the word too. But just because she's ahead on the Bible dictionary does not mean he's not the head of his house. He's the head. He is responsible.
It's good, man.
That whole spiritual leader stuff is, I don't know. Somebody in a Bethmore Bible study made that. That ain't it, man.
I get all the time and say, my husband's not the head of the household, or he's not the spiritual leader of the household. And I start talking to him, and I finally realized what they're asking for is a husband who will lead them in Bible study. I say, you understand, I'm pretty good at the Bible. I'm really good at it. And I only led 2 Bible studies in the history of my family because at the end of both of them, my kids were crying. So, and I said, I'm just not doing it. I'm not doing it anymore. Now, all my kids have come to know Christ. All my kids are tithing. All my kids, I have a tight relationship with all of them. 6 grandkids, all that stuff. But I had to lead, quote unquote, air quote, whatever lead means. Basically meant I had to die for my family. Basically meant that I had to know I was standing before God to do what needed to be done for my family. And that didn't, for me, and didn't include Bible studies. I go and tell him, is your husband a Christian? Yeah. Does he go to church with you? Yeah. You've hit the lotto. You're meeting a guy who knows Christ and is going to church with you. You start thanking God. Instead of browbeating him because he's not fulfilling whatever you think he should be doing as a man.
I would say if you want to lead at home, I'm going to give you 3 ways to lead. This is just a hack. You'd be a great leader at home as a dad. Be the lead repenter. Be the lead apologizer. And just pray out loud over your wife and kids. And some guys are like, well, I'm not good at it. You know, biggest word I know is delicatessen. I don't know how to work it in. This is how easy it is.
Did you spec that up? Biggest word is delicatessen. I don't know how to work in it.
You look at your...
Where do you pull these things out of your hole? Where
from the South, man. You people from Ohio don't know how to do this. You go to your wife and you go, baby, how can I pray for you?
Now,
here's important. She's going to say words. Pay attention to those words. Then all you do is hold her hand and say, dear God, and literally verbatim, just repeat exactly what she said and say amen.
It's good.
And she's going to say Hercules, Hercules. That's it, bro. Because it's one of the only ways you can fight for her heart anymore. You know, there are no more dragons to slay. And so if you can just say, can I just pray for you out loud? I'm telling you, bro. Now, when you say amen, it's going to be crying. And you're going to think, what's wrong? Nothing's wrong. You're killing it. And if she were here, I would say reward him because dudes are like puppies. They repeat what's rewarded.
That's right.
You know, 100%. Don't correct his grammar or his theology. Just be like, good job, baby. Good job.
I encourage people to figure out what your systems are. Your life. I don't know who said it. Wasn't me. I'm quoting somebody. You know, your aspirations aren't what gets you ahead in your life. It's your systems that get you ahead in your life. And so if you want to bless your family spiritually, figure out the systems. And it's got to be trigger points. So here's where mine. I just decided I'm going to tuck in my kids every night. I'm not doing the 50-50 thing. Because why? Because then I get to pray with my kids every night. We get to bond that way. Family dinners. Same questions every time. What was the best of your day? What was the worst of your day? And then as they got older, I'd start asking, well, did God say anything to you today? And that was always an awkward question. So we ended up dropping that one. But it was a system. It was like, hey, I'm fostering a relationship here. We pray every night before the meal. I don't know that we had a vibrant prayer life as a family, but I tell you, we prayed at meals. We talked about it. So what's the systems for that? When you go out, I would never go do an errand without one of my kids. You know, the great Shema in Deuteronomy, when they rise up, when they sit down, just have your kids with you. Don't go to Home Depot to buy a 2x4 without your kids. Have them with you.
Now I grab one of my girls every time I go anywhere for the same purpose, man. And I mean, your kids, I'm a girl dad. I got 3 daughters.
Lucky.
Bro, it's crazy. Almost 14, 10, and almost 4. And they're all so different, but
you're honestly, you know how lucky you are.
Oh, it's a blessing.
You get your family added to instead of your family just subtracting.
Somebody said that to me the other day. They were like, if you
anybody who had a boy,
I don't remember the line that was fed, but it was like, hey man, when you have a daughter, she's your daughter forever.
You lose your boys. You only gain boys because you always keep your daughter.
But the experience has been, if I can get my daughters alone, they're different human beings. when they're in the house together, it is what it is. But I get my 14-year-old daughter in the truck and we run errands. All of a sudden, she's just bearing her heart to me.
Well, the truck's one of the best places to talk because you're not looking at each other.
I agree.
You have the awkward, everybody's looking out the window.
Yep. Yeah. But what I love about what you guys are saying, I feel like a lot of times, man, it's like guys put too much pressure on themselves. Wives put too much pressure on the guys, and the simplicity of what you're talking about. I think there's a beauty to that. It's like, dude, in the way that you're living life, look for opportunities to speak in truth, to get your family in church, like all the things. It always frustrates me when we divorce the Great Commission from the church at large. And people will look at a dad and he's like, it's your job to disciple your whole family, as if like he's the only one responsible for doing that. Mm-hmm. And they put all that pressure on that dude. And we don't understand, no, this is a collective mission that we have been, this is something we do together, man. Right. It's like, yeah, you got to take responsibility and pour in and be the head of your family in ways. But there's also an army of other people. Like I'm grateful for the kids ministry leaders in our church that are shaping my daughters. I'm so grateful for the student ministry leaders that are shaping my teenage girl right now. And so I feel like we're in the fight together, and that does take a lot of pressure off, man. But I was just going to ask this. I'm curious, like with your kids, you guys have both sons and daughters. How does it look different for you in discipling a son versus a daughter?
I think ours is probably just more personality. Like my son is a lot more like my wife. He's way more introverted. My daughter's a lot more like me. My daughter loves that her dad is the lead pastor of a multi-site church in Jacksonville. Like everywhere we go, we get recognized. She loves it. She'd walk on stage with me. She interns at our church. Like she thinks that's the greatest thing.
My 10-year-old, man.
Yeah. My son, he does not love it at all. Even when he was playing football and I was one of the coaches, he asked me to not be there when they were picking the starters because he didn't want any daddy influence. He wanted to earn it himself. Wow. Very respectable, no problem. Yeah. So it's been very different. Yeah. Dude, my son has a small group leader that he started with in 6th grade, followed him all the way through graduation. And JP he just finished his freshman year at FSU. Yeah. JP, when he's home, still meets with him every Thursday morning.
So good.
And that brother's voice in my son's life is so loud. One of the key things, whether it's a boy or a girl, is you get the right people speaking into your kids, man. Because I don't care how cool you think you are, there's going to come a day where they ain't talking to you about stuff. And you're like, not me, you idiot. Don't you remember you went and talked to your parents and they thought they were cool, all right? So you want the right people speaking into them. And so, dude, I am forever indebted to his leader named Josh. He just pours into him. And my kids are walking with the Lord. Yeah.
I'd agree with Joby. I couldn't see anything I would do different with my son or daughters based on their gender. It's based on who they are, their personality, their perspectives. I agree with that.
Really one of the things we did, JP's older. He's 4 years older than Reagan. And when we brought Reagan home from the hospital, I looked at him at 4 and I said, hey, dude, your number one job is to protect Reagan. And I mean, we would drill into this. We'd be at the mall, and I'd look at him, and I'd be like, I'd just hold up one finger. What's your number one job? And he'd go, protect Reagan. He'd keep an eye on her, all the way through. When they went to the same school, and he was in high school, she was in middle school, and I'd drop him off and go, what's your number one job? Protect Reagan. He takes it very, very seriously. Yeah. And then when he got to high school and started dating this, like the dating scene came on, I was like, listen, they're all Reagan. Every one of these girls you go to school with, it's good that you're sniffing around, that's somebody's little sister. Yeah, right. And part of it's his personality, part of it's just the Spirit of God at work in him, but he takes that responsibility very, very, very seriously.
I love that, man. Yeah, and now he's fighting MMA, so
he can actually.
He can actually.
It's funny because when he graduated and left, Reagan was like, "High school is very different because people were terrified of JP." So she's like, "There are boys that talk to me now that never would before."
Bro, I love that. That's so good, man. I know you do, man.
And I did. I'd be like, "Dude, if you need to handle business, you will get kicked out of school." And we'll go on a hunt trip.
We'll be great.
You will be rewarded as long as you don't do anything, But if you're just defending, no problem.
I love that, man. I love it. Bro, let me circle back to the whole feminization of the church thing for just a moment, because there's a question I wanted to hit. I don't know. Do you think any of this has to do with like a wrong view of Jesus? Because I think we, what's the word I'm looking for? We emasculate him at times in the church. wrong view of Jesus. So as you think about Jesus and his masculinity, like what would you say the church needs to glean from his masculinity to get back on the right track at large? Does that make sense what I'm asking you?
Yeah, when I went over to, I've been over to Jerusalem a bunch of times, but one time whenever I had a guide, a female Jewish guide, and she's not a Christian, and she leads through the things, and she says, Jesus was a very rigorous man. So this was a guy who didn't have really great shoes, who would walk miles every day, who was in the trades. She's doing this thing. I'm going, well, I'm hearing something from a Jewish woman that I wouldn't hear from an American male pastor. We forget these things of who he is. I think that we speak the language of woman in the church. I'll give you an example. Our songs, our songs are emotional love songs that men don't sing to other men or are uncomfortable with. So we used to sing growing up in church, the dead church I went to, Onward Christian Soldiers. I'm going to talk tomorrow about being a soldier. Onward Christian Soldiers, they would never publish that song today. Yeah. It's a weird thing. We have songs, what a beautiful name it is, the name of Jesus. I like the song. It just should be leading with a powerful name, not a beautiful name. Joby, what a beautiful name it is.
It means afflictful.
What a beautiful name. It's second nature to us in the church. We speak the language of women. We don't speak the language of men.
I'm telling you, it's back to who's in charge.
Yeah.
You think about your typical pastor.
Yeah.
I'm pro education, I've got degrees and all the things but somewhere along the way we traded in calling for qualifications. And then what do you get if you've got to have a master's degree and you love to read a ton and you feel a lot and your lead foot is counseling and you think the 11th commandment is be kind, right? Be nice. Yeah, man. Then you get the feminization, the wussification of the church. It's because the average pastor, dude, it's not good.
Yeah.
Well, even like the verse that the conference is based off of, right? Yeah. Act like men.
That's right.
When I preach that verse, I always say, hey, it doesn't act like a spiritually mature person. No, it's act like a man. Yeah. Act like an emotionally in touch person. Act like we have all these things, but like we even want to act like men. No, that's a high calling. It's actually in the Bible. People struggle with that.
Well, again, I think this whole the way that our culture pits toughness and tenderness against each other.
Well, Jesus is the lion and the lamb.
That's what I was going to say. He's the embodiment of both.
Correct.
So what we see in him is this tender side, of course, where he loves kids and he respects and elevates women and all these things.
Yes. I heard my friend Kyle on Undaunted Life say this. So this won't be verbatim, but I just want to give credit where credit's due. If you're only a lamb with your family and they don't know that the lion can show up when he's needed, they'll always be insecure.
That's good.
Because you can never protect them.
Yeah.
But if you're only the lion and you're not the lamb, then there'll always be on pins and needles. Yeah. Like when you walk in the room, does peace walk in with you? Or does everybody pucker up?
Yeah.
And so you got to learn, you got to learn how to be tough for and tender with.
Yeah. That's
good. And it's a high calling.
It is. All right, let me hit you with one last question, then we'll be done. So to a guy that's listening right now, he's hearing all this, and he's just like, all right, bro, what do I do? Maybe he feels stuck, spiritually isolated, far from God, whatever. He's done something stupid, disqualified himself in some way. What is one step that you would tell that guy to take today to start walking out biblical manhood again?
Well, step one is a great man is a redeemed man. Like if you don't know Jesus, you'll never know how to be a great man. Yeah. Because you need the God man in you to do for you what you cannot do for yourself. Yeah. If you are a believer, you have to get connected to a community. That's called a church.
Yeah.
And if you're like, well, I tried a church and I didn't like it. Dude, you tried a haircut that didn't work and you didn't quit cutting your hair, or you've had a bad meal, you didn't quit eating. So find a group of human beings that also love Jesus. I mean, my football coach used to say, show me your friends, I'll show you your future. So surround yourself with some people that you want to head in that direction.
Love it.
Proverbs says it more eloquently, he walks with the wise, grows wise, but the companion of fools suffers harm. Yeah. So step one, meet Jesus. Yeah. Step two, you're not saved by a church, but you were saved into a faith family. You got to find that.
Yeah.
I agree with that. So I'll just build on that. And I would say for the average guy, this is a fight. And anything that you improve in is going to take time, and you're going to fail. It's going to take hits.
Yeah.
Anything. And getting back on track as a man, you just got to be saying, I'm going to start doing these things and I'm going to trust it's going to pay off.
Yeah.
It's what you do when you go work out.
That's right.
You know, I'm going to trust if I do this system, I'm going to be better off in 2 months. But you don't got any fruit after the first week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. You're just sore. It's awkward to you.
Yeah.
That's what's like becoming a man of God. You just do the right things, trusting you're going to get to a better place.
What did Eugene Peterson say? Long obedience in the same direction.
Yeah.
That's it, man. So I love it. Joby, Brian, thank you guys for taking time to do this. Thanks for being here to speak at the conference. Grateful for you, brothers.
Yeah.
Thank you, man. Well done.
Yeah. Appreciate you, man.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Pursuit with James Griffin. Be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you'll never miss an episode. If you have questions about the message, the scriptures, or faith in general, you can send them to us by texting the word question to the number 22722. For more information about our church or this podcast, please visit crosspointcity.com or follow us online at Crosspoint City. If you found value in this podcast, we would love it if you took time to like it and share it with a friend. Doing that will help more people know and follow Jesus. And finally, we want to invite you to join us each week for one of our gatherings in person or live on YouTube. We hope to see you soon.